The day Arif failed again, the whole village heard about it before sunset. He stood outside the small tea stall in his dusty village, staring at the ground while people whispered behind him. For the third time, he had failed the police recruitment test. In a place where everyone knew everyone, failure echoed louder than success. An old man sipping tea shook his head and said quietly, "Some people are just not meant for big dreams." Those words cut deeper than any insult. Arif walked home slowly along the narrow dirt road, his confidence shattered into pieces. But that evening, something unexpected happened that would change everything. A simple 10-minute habit would rebuild the confidence he thought he had lost forever. Before we continue this story, if you enjoy powerful life stories like this, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, MindShift Tales, because every story here is designed to change the way you think about life. Arif lived in a small village surrounded by wheat fields and mango trees. Most people in the village believed life followed a fixed path. You studied a little, worked in the fields, married early, and accepted whatever life gave you. But Arif had always wanted something different. He wanted to become a police officer so he could help protect the nearby villages from criminals who often troubled farmers. For 3 years, he trained hard. He woke before sunrise, ran along the canal road, and practiced for the written test at night under a dim bulb. But every time the results came out, his name was missing. Slowly, the villagers stopped encouraging him. Some laughed quietly when he ran past them in the morning. Even his relatives began telling his parents to convince him to stop dreaming. One evening, while Arif sat silently near the village well, an elderly school teacher named Rahman approached him. Rahman had taught many children in the village before retiring. He sat beside Arif and asked gently, "Why does the strongest runner in the village look like a defeated man today?" Arif sighed and said, "Because I am tired of trying and failing." Rahman listened carefully without interrupting. Then he said something surprising. "Your problem is not strength, talent, or effort. Your problem is your mind." Arif looked confused. "I run every morning and study every night," he replied. "What else can I do?" Rahman smiled and said, "Start a 10-minute habit every day." Arif frowned. "10 minutes cannot change my life," he said. Rahman shook his head slowly. 10 minutes can rebuild a broken mind." The old teacher explained the habit. Every morning before running, Arif had to spend 10 minutes alone speaking confidence into himself. He had to stand straight, look toward the rising sun, and say 3 simple things out loud. First, he would remind himself who he wanted to become. Second, he would remember one small improvement from the previous day. Third, he would promise himself he would not quit today. At first, Arif felt embarrassed doing this. It felt strange talking to himself near the empty fields. But he trusted the old teacher, so he continued the habit every day. On the first morning, he said quietly, "I will become a police officer." On the second morning, his voice was slightly stronger. Within a week, the words began to feel real. Instead of running with doubt, he ran with purpose. Instead of studying with fear, he studied with belief. Something small started changing inside him. His shoulders straightened. His eyes looked forward instead of down. People in the village noticed the difference. The same men who once laughed now wondered what had changed. But Arif never mentioned the 10-minute habit. He simply repeated it every single morning. 1 month passed. Then 2 months. Confidence slowly replaced fear. His practice test scores improved. His running speed increased. Even when he made mistakes, he no longer felt broken. One afternoon, Rahman met him again near the tea stall. The old teacher asked, "Are you still doing the 10 minutes?" Arif smiled and nodded. Rahman said softly, "That habit is not magic. It simply reminds your mind who is in control." 3 months later, the police recruitment test was announced again. This time, the entire village waited to see if Arif would try again. Early on the morning of the test, Arif stood in the same wheat field where he practiced his habit. He closed his eyes and spoke the same 3 sentences he had spoken for 90 days. But this time his voice carried strength that even he could hear. The exam center was crowded with hundreds of applicants from nearby towns and villages. In the past, that crowd would have made Arif nervous. But now he felt calm. He focused on his breathing and remembered his promise not to quit today. The running test started first. The whistle blew and the runners dashed forward. Arif ran like the wind cutting through the fields of his village. He finished among the top candidates. Then came the written exam. For the first time, his mind felt clear and steady. Questions that once confused him now felt familiar. He wrote with quiet confidence. Weeks later, the results were announced. Arif walked to the notice board with steady steps. His heart pounded as his eyes scanned the list of selected candidates. Then suddenly he saw his name. For a moment he could not breathe. After years of doubt and failure, his name was finally there. He had passed. When Arif returned to the village wearing his training uniform weeks later, the same people who once doubted him congratulated him proudly. But Arif knew the real victory had happened long before the results came. It happened in those quiet 10 minutes every morning when he rebuilt his confidence piece by piece. That simple habit had turned a defeated villager into a man who believed in himself. And sometimes that belief is the only difference between quitting and winning. If this story made you think about the power of small daily habits, tell us in the comments what 10-minute habit you would start today. And if you believe someone in your life needs to hear this message, share this video with them. For more powerful stories that shift the way you think and help you grow stronger every day, stay connected with MindShift Tales.